Welcome back to my YouTube channel today. I have something very exciting for all of you coin lovers and collectors. We are going to take a deep dive into some incredible old wheat pennies that many people overlook, but in reality, they could be worth a lot more than just 1 cent. These small copper coins carry history, culture, and hidden value. And if you've got a coin jar at home or an old collection passed down from family, you might already be sitting on one of these treasures we will be looking at. The 1952 wheat penny, the 1956 wheat penny, the 1951 wheat penny, the 1939 wheat penny, and the 1950 wheat penny. Now, what makes this so interesting is that at first glance they look like regular old pennies, but the truth is collectors are paying surprising amounts for them, especially if they are in mint state or if they have unique errors. Today, I'll first tell you about their value, what these coins can be worth in today's market, and then we'll dig into the fascinating history behind each one. These coins were made during times of war, recovery, and growth in America, and every single one of them has a story to tell, so stay tuned. Because by the end of this video, you'll not only know the value of these wheat pennies, but you'll also appreciate the history they represent, and who knows, maybe you have one of these valuable coins hiding right in your pocket change. The 1952 wheat penny. Now at face value, you might think it's just another old copper cent, but in the collector's world, the details matter. And that's where the real value comes in. A regular circulated 1952 penny is usually worth only a few cents, maybe 10 to 20 cents at best. But when you move into uncirculated mint state examples, especially those with full red luster, the value jumps dramatically. We're talking anywhere from $5 up to over $15 or $20, depending on grade. And that's before we even mention errors or varieties. Now here's the pro tip: advanced collectors always check for double dies, repunched mint marks, and die cracks on these coins, because those error types can push the price far beyond normal. Auction records have shown certain 1952 wheat pennies with unique errors selling for hundreds of dollars, and the reason is simple: collectors are always chasing the rarest versions, not the common ones. Historically, the 1952 wheat penny is fascinating because it was struck during the post-World War II boom era. The United States was thriving, the economy was strong, and coins like this were being produced in massive numbers at Philadelphia with no mint mark, at Denver with a D mint mark, and at San Francisco with an S mint mark. Over 1 billion were minted across these three locations, yet despite that huge mintage, survival in pristine red condition is very low. Copper reacts with air and turns brown quickly, so finding a bright red gem today is truly special. That's why collectors value it so much. It's not just about rarity in numbers, but rarity in condition. So, if you have a 1952 wheat penny, don't just glance at it, toss it in a jar and forget it. Examine the color, the condition, and most importantly, check for errors. If you find a bright red uncirculated piece or an error variety, you could be sitting on a coin worth far more than its humble 1 cent face value. And that's what makes this coin advanced and exciting for serious collectors. It's a blend of history, condition, rarity, and the hunt for those special hidden details that separate an ordinary penny from a true collectible treasure. The 1956 wheat penny. At first glance, many collectors assume this coin is too common to be valuable, since over 1.1 billion of them were minted across Philadelphia and Denver mints. But the truth is, condition and rarity within the details are everything. A regular circulated 1956 penny is only worth a few cents, basically face value. However, if you find one in mint state condition, especially a full red example, the value starts climbing into the $10 to $20 range, and in some cases much higher. When certified by grading companies like PCGS or INGNO, here's where things get really interesting. The 1956 wheat penny is famous among advanced collectors for its error varieties. One of the most well-known is the double die obverse, where letters like Liberty or the motto "In God We Trust" show clear doubling under magnification. Another sought-after variety is the repunched mint mark on the Denver strike, known as 1956 D. RPM collectors actively seek out these errors and will pay premiums ranging from $50 to hundreds, depending on how bold the doubling or repunch is. So, while the average 1956 penny may be common, an error coin can be a serious jackpot in your collection. Historically, the 1956 penny holds a special place because it's one of the final years of the wheat reverse design. The wheat penny series ran from 1909 to 1958. So the 1956 issue represents the closing chapter of an era in American coinage. The design itself, with Lincoln on the front and two wheat stalks on the back, is one of the most iconic in US history. In 1959, it was replaced with the Lincoln Memorial design, which collectors today see as a dividing line between classic and modern pennies. Owning a 1956 wheat penny is like holding a piece of that transition right before America changed its cent design for good. Another thing worth mentioning is the metal composition. This coin is made from 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, which is heavier and richer than the mostly zinc pennies we use today. When you hold a wheat penny from this era, you can actually feel the difference. It has a weight and tone that modern coins lack, and that in itself adds to the collectible appeal. So, the bottom line on the 1956 wheat penny is this: while most are common and worth only a few cents, serious collectors hunt for uncirculated bright red gems and rare error varieties. Those are the coins that can command strong prices in the market, and if you've got one sitting in a coin album or old change jar, you might be surprised at just how valuable it could be. The 1951 wheat penny. Now, at first, people might overlook this coin because, like many other wheat cents, it was struck in huge numbers. In fact, across Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, more than 1 billion 1951 wheat pennies were produced. So naturally, in circulated condition, these coins are worth only a few cents, maybe 10 to 20 cents each. However, once again, the real story begins when you look at the high-grade examples and the special varieties, because that's where collectors focus and where true value lies. A 1951 wheat penny in bright red, uncirculated mint state condition can range from $5 all the way up to $50 or more, especially if graded MS65 or higher by a top grading service. Let's dig a little deeper into why some of these coins are so special. The 1951D and 1951S versions are particularly collectible because fewer of those survive in high mint state compared to the Philadelphia issue. So if you find a coin with a D or S mint mark in beautiful condition, that's something to hold on to. Also, error varieties exist on this year, such as off-center strikes, die cracks, and repunched mint marks. Advanced collectors are always on the lookout for these, because even small errors can multiply a coin's value significantly. For example, a 1951 DRPM in crisp condition can sell for dozens of dollars, far beyond the basic price guides. Historically, the 1951 penny sits in a really interesting moment in time. America was just coming out of the hardships of World War II and heading into the prosperity of the 1950s, yet copper was still being used heavily for coinage. Unlike the steel cents of 1943, the 1951 wheat penny was made of solid copper with that rich reddish tone that collectors love. The wheat reverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, had already been in circulation for decades and was still going strong, which makes this coin part of that classic early American cent tradition. It's also one of those coins that helped shape the everyday economy of post-war America, because pennies were still widely used in shops and daily life back then. Another important thing about the 1951 penny is its survivability. While billions were struck, most ended up worn down in circulation, so finding one today in pristine gem condition is far less common than people think. This is why advanced collectors will pay a premium for examples that retain full luster with minimal marks. The difference between a brown circulated coin worth a penny and a blazing red gem worth $50 or more is all about storage condition and luck. So the takeaway on the 1951 wheat penny is that while most are common and low in value, the gems are rare and highly collectible. If you've got one in your collection, always check for mint marks, condition, and possible error varieties, because you never know, that little copper coin might be more than just pocket change. It could be a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. The 1939 wheat penny. Now, this coin immediately stands out from the others we've talked about because it takes us back to the pre-World War II years. This was a time when America was still recovering from the Great Depression and the world itself was on the edge of war. When you hold a 1939 penny, you're literally holding a piece of history from a very different American terms of value. The 1939 wheat penny in circulated condition is still pretty affordable, usually worth a few cents, maybe 10 to 30 cents depending on grade. But here's the important part: condition makes all the difference. If you have one in mint state with that brilliant red luster, you could be looking at $20, $50, or even more at auction, especially for MS66 or MS67 graded examples. And as with all wheat pennies, errors push the value up dramatically. Double dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, or die cracks are the kinds of varieties that advanced collectors chase. And when those show up on a 1939 penny, they can sell for hundreds of dollars. Historically, the 1939 penny is fascinating because it came at a turning point. The United States was not yet in World War II, but the country was starting to recover from years of hardship under the Depression. Pennies were struck in large numbers that year, mostly in Philadelphia, with no mint mark, and also at Denver and San Francisco. In fact, Philadelphia alone minted over 316 million coins. But here's the catch: even though there were many minted, the survival rate in gem red condition is much lower. Copper from this time has often toned to brown or lost its original shine, making true gem reds very desirable and far less common. This coin also has a special feel compared to later wheat cents because of the time it represents. Think about it, 1939 was the year when movies like Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz were released. Europe was going into war, and yet in America, everyday people were still using this exact penny to buy gum candy and newspapers. Something about that makes holding a 1939 wheat penny feel like traveling back in time. For collectors, the 1939 penny is often an important piece in building a complete wheat cent collection spanning from 1909 all the way to 1958. It's not the rarest year, but its historical context makes it one of the more meaningful ones. And when you can find one in top condition, it becomes a true prize for your collection. So the key takeaway here is that the 1939 wheat penny is more than just its small market value. It's about condition, history, and the chance to own a coin that carries the story of America on the brink of change from the Great Depression to the World War era. The 1950 wheat penny, this one often gets overlooked by new collectors because so many were struck, and at first glance it seems pretty common. In fact, the Philadelphia Mint alone made over 272 million pieces, while Denver and San Francisco produced hundreds of millions more. So, naturally, if you find one in heavily circulated condition, it's only worth a cent or two, maybe up to 20 cents at best. But when you move into uncirculated gem condition, that's where this coin starts to shine. Literally, a brilliant red 1950 penny graded MS65 can sell for around $10 to $20, and coins graded MS66 or higher can go for much more. Advanced collectors know that the key is always condition, and color. Brown coins are the most common. Red brown are a little better, but full red blazing examples are the ones that really command strong premiums at auction. Now, let's talk about what makes the 1950 penny interesting for serious collectors beyond just face value. This coin is part of the early 1950s run, which is a sweet spot in the wheat penny series. The design had been around since 1909 and was only a few years away from being retired in 1958. So every penny from the 1950s carries that sense of being among the last of a long classic American coinage tradition. The 1950 issue, especially, is known for its clean, striking quality and the fact that many rolls were saved by collectors early on, which is why higher grade examples exist today. Still, even though rolls were saved over 70 years ago, very few survive untouched and bright red today, and those that do are the treasures. Advanced collectors' wanderer varieties also make this coin special. For example, 1950D repunched mint marks and 1950S RPM varieties are known and can command prices well above normal, depending on clarity and rarity. An off-center strike or die break on this year can also make the coin far more valuable. This is why advanced collectors carefully inspect every wheat penny under magnification, because the small differences can mean the difference between a coin worth 10 cents and one worth $100 or more. Historically, the 1950 wheat penny reflects post-World War II America. The war had ended just 5 years earlier, and the country was stepping into a new decade filled with optimism and economic growth. Coins like this were in every American's pocket, used daily for everything from buying soda at the corner store to newspapers or bus fare. When you hold a 1950 penny, you're not just holding copper, you're holding a piece of the early 1950s lifestyle preserved in your hand. That's part of what makes wheat pennies so appealing to collectors. They aren't just money, they are history in miniature. So the bottom line with the 1950 wheat penny is simple. While most examples are common and low in value, the real gems are the high-grade mint state red pieces, and especially those with errors. Those are the coins that go from pocket change to collectible treasures in today's market. If you've got a 1950 penny in your collection, check it closely, because even a coin that looks ordinary could turn out to be far more valuable than you'd expect. And that brings us to the end of our journey through these amazing wheat pennies from 1939 to the early 1950s. We looked at the 1952, the 1956, the 1951, the 1939, and the 1950 wheat pennies. And while on the surface they might look like ordinary old cents, each one tells its own story and carries its own potential value. Some are worth just a few cents, while others in pristine, red, uncirculated condition or with rare error varieties can bring in tens or even hundreds of dollars at auctions more. Importantly, these coins remind us that money isn't just currency, it's history in your hand. Every scratch, every shine, every mint mark has a story behind it. And that's what makes collecting so fascinating. So, if you've got an old jar of change at home, or maybe a small collection passed down from family, take a moment to look closely at those pennies. You never know, you might be holding a hidden treasure without even realizing it. And even if the value isn't sky high, the history alone makes them worth keeping. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into wheat pennies. And if you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and share this video with other coin lovers so we can keep exploring the amazing world of rare and valuable coins together. Until next time, happy collecting, and may you find that special coin hiding in your pocket change.